All right, we are officially live. I would love to welcome you all to the discussion tonight on becoming an intentional woman. My name is Kamisha Young, and I'm truly excited for just what we will be talking about tonight. I have a special guest that will be joining us, my sister, Shakaya McCall. So we are just going to go ahead and get started. But first and foremost, I just want to thank you all for supporting. I do want to let you know that tonight's discussion is based off the latest book called The Intentional Woman. So that is where all of this discussion has come from. And also, just we want to have a transparent conversation tonight that I know is much needed. So many women have been chiming in since they've seen this discussion that will be going on. So, without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get it started tonight. So, let me go ahead and bring on Shakaya so that she can introduce herself to you guys and we can just get going with the discussion. All right. Hey, Shakaya.
Hi everybody. How are you doing, Kamisha?
I'm good, girl. First and foremost, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation
Of
tonight. I
course.
know that you are a busy girl, so I do not take it for granted, but I just want you to know that I'm very grateful for you, just to agree, to contribute to what you have tonight.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. I'm definitely honored, and I'm really excited for what's going to take place tonight. But before I get into everything, I just want to introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Shakaya McCall. I am a founder of a day spa and self-care brand called Self Lux Co. We are based out of the Charleston, South Carolina area. So we are an award-winning day spa, and we really want women to elevate their self-care through curated facial experiences and just different things to really just help them to just elevate themselves. So yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. Yes. Y'all
Yeah.
heard that. She is a spa owner. So many things, but we love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So So tonight we're just gonna kind of start, set the tone. First of all, I just want to say before we really get into the discussion that we're just gonna be very transparent, honest. We're kind of like I said, we're pulling back the layers of beyond who we are. I mean, you guys heard Shakaya is she's an owner, a founder. I myself wear many hats, which I believe many of us as women, we wear many hats. We have many
Definitely.
responsibilities and we have a lot of titles. We just have so much that we do.
Yeah.
So, beyond all of that, at the end of the day, we're just women. I'm just a girl.
Yeah. Just the girl.
Just a girl trying to strive toward, being the women that God has created and called us to be. I believe
Yes.
that at the core should be our motive. I know that is my desire. That's my motive when I wake up in the morning. I'm not always thinking about being a business owner or an author or,
Yeah.
of course, like I am a wife as well, but first and foremost, I just want to be that best person that I can be for God. And so we're
Yeah.
going to kind of get into some of the details of what that takes for us because it's not always
Yeah.
easy.
Definitely not.
it's Yeah, it's not always easy, but it is attainable. And that's one thing I
Yeah.
do want to emphasize is that we're not coming in here saying we've got it all together or we've
No.
mastered being intentional. It's literally a daily walk. So
Yeah.
all right, so let's see. First and foremost, I think we need to just go ahead and let everyone know
Okay.
that you have what it takes, right?
Yes.
You have what it
Yes.
takes.
Definitely. And I think, especially as women, we can get in our heads a lot and we may not think that we have what it takes, but it takes, just maybe seeing another woman who you could relate to that kind of just shares her story and just kind of, reassures you like you have what it takes. So I know that definitely helped me.
For sure. And I believe that also has to do with like our identity
Yeah.
and knowing like who we really are. And I know as believers, we're just daughters of God at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And once we really understand all that that entails and what that comes with, I
Yeah.
think it would be a little bit easier for us to accept that we do have what it takes, right?
Yeah.
Um, like you said, we can really get into our heads and be like, I'm not doing it the way the next person is, or
Mhm.
I may not be at this stage in my life as the next person, but I
Yeah.
don't think that makes a difference because God has given each of us something in every stage or season of our lives that whatever He's desiring for us to do or whatever we desire
Mhm.
to do, we have what
Right.
it takes.
Definitely. I definitely agree.
Yes. So what do you think some of the things are that kind of keeps us from believing that? And I know we always hear like imposter syndrome. I know
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people talk about. What are some things you feel like keeps us as women from truly believing that we do have what it takes?
I would definitely say just not really resting in, like you said, like, first we're daughters of God. And I think, maybe a few years ago, I really wanted to grasp the identity of, okay, when you're a daughter of God and you're really resting in that, you're able to be the best mom, the best wife, the best business owner, because your identity is first rooted in that. And that could be like a daily, thing you have to constantly just reassure yourself of. It's not something that, is going to happen overnight, maybe not. But I think, especially for women, just the overthinking and just kind of not really being laser focused in what God has called you to do. It can be so easy, especially now with social media. We're seeing
Hmm.
everyone's highlight reels, and
Right.
we may be in one season, but we see someone else in another season that we desire. It can be easy to kind of lose focus on what God wants you to do during that time. But I
Hmm.
think that's definitely something that women may struggle with. I know personally I have. And so just kind of like, reevaluating things and just really talking it out with God and being honest about like where you're at with everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really love that. And something you just said is being honest with God, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I believe that God wants our transparency. He wants our
Yeah.
vulnerability. He wants the authentic us. He already knows us, right?
Mhm.
God
Yep.
already knows like what we deal with. He knows where we're really at. And
Yeah.
I heard a quote one time that says, God can't bless the person that you are um,
Mm.
God can't bless like who you're trying to be. Like He can bless like who you
Mm.
actually are. So,
Yeah.
like you said, we don't have to present ourselves to Him as this like perfect, and a lot of times I
Yeah.
feel like women kind of avoid really going to God in that state
Mhm.
because they feel like,
Mhm.
well, I'm not together. And
Yeah.
no, like you need to go to God. If you're disappointed about where you're at in life, I think
Mhm.
that's something you need to take to God. If you feel like, hey, I feel like I'm behind at this point in my life. I know for me, I felt like that um throughout seasons of my life where like,
Yeah.
okay, God, I feel like I should have been here by now.
Mhm.
But going to God in prayer, I get that reassurance and that guidance to my
Mhm.
next steps. And then that
Yeah.
keeps me moving forward.
Right, right. And we need those. And I think, well, I know that God knows that we need those like little reassurances, especially as women. Like we need those, like, okay, you're doing a good job. Like, I'm proud of you. I'm this. But he knows like his children, each of us individually. So he knows like if we're feeling down or like you say in your prayer time, he might give you that like, okay, I'm really proud of you for this, or like you've grown so much. Remember when you were this way a year ago, look where
Mhm,
you are now. And I think we sometimes forget that. Like how
mhm.
far we have come because we're so focused on, like the next thing or like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm not where I need to be or whatever like that. So yeah.
absolutely. So that leads me to kind of like maybe my first, if I could give anyone a step to becoming intentional, I would say get a prayer life, like
Yeah.
get a connection with God through prayer,
Mhm.
because that is going to be your foundation no matter what season of your life that you find yourself in, whether you're single, married, a
Yeah.
mom, getting a new job, relocating, whatever you might be going through, like your communication to, your next step or your current step
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
with God in prayer.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And I think also, I don't know, I felt led to just share, like, everyone's prayer life, it may look different for everyone. We're all individuals. And I think, we can't be so rigid in our thinking of what like our prayer life should look like. It's just
Mm,
basically communication with God, pray without ceasing. And like that scriptures is basically saying, like, throughout your day, talk to God. Of course, we want to have that, quiet time, secluded, but
right.
also let's not just be so fixated on that we just have that, 30 minutes, hour with God and whatever time, and then throughout the day we're not speaking to him at all.
Come on.
He wants relationship with us. He wants to, talk to us like, okay, God, I'm having a rough day at work, so can you just, I need to, get back with you.
Yes.
So yeah, just not being so rigid in our thinking of like what prayer should look like. And
Yeah.
I think that'll also just help us with our relationship with God, because we won't look at him as such a distant deity, but just like, okay, this is my father, this is my friend, this is my
Yes.
counselor, this is my, just, I need you. I need you.
Yes.
Like that dependency, especially as
Yes.
women, like, yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, you said something. Because let me tell you how today was set up. How when I got home and had things to do, I literally prayed when I was in the shower, get myself together. And I love that because,
Yeah.
like you said, yes, of course, quiet time is valuable and setting
Yes.
aside an altar, all of that is valuable.
Hmm.
Corporate prayer at your local assembly
Yes.
is valuable. We're not
Very
negating
much.
that.
No, we're not.
But you don't want to wait from week to week when you have that scheduled time if you need the Lord right then and there. You
Right.
need that reassurance. I know when I need to get in touch with my husband, I'm not gonna wait till he gets home tonight. Oh, I'm sending a text. Hey, right now, please. So I believe that's how the Lord wants us to be. And I love that you did
Yeah.
share that because we don't have to be so rigid.
Hmm.
God wants relationship with us. Like you said, he is our father. He's
Yeah.
always available. He's always waiting.
Yeah.
He doesn't put us on read. He's
Hmm.
like, okay, girl,
Nope.
I'm
Nope.
here.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So yes, you ladies, you have what it takes. If you're watching this, like you have what it takes, but it takes a connection with God, your father, to even know what you have. So that leads me into like my next point is like knowing what you carry. I
Yeah.
believe as an intentional woman, we each have things on the inside of us that God
For
intentionally
sure.
placed there. And I think one of my biggest frustrations, which aligns with my purpose, is when I see people not really believing that they carry anything. Or
Yeah.
I can look at a person and be like, they don't know how powerful they really are.
Hmm.
And they're just like, no, I'm,
Yeah.
don't downplay what you carry
Right.
in any
Right.
facet,
Right.
whether it be a relationship. You carry something,
Hmm.
you bring something to the table of that relationship.
Yeah.
If it's a friendship, if it's on your job at your workplace, just knowing what you carry helps you to steward what's on the inside of you. And we all have something different, as you
Hmm.
said prior. What you may carry, Shakaya, is not exactly the same as what I carry, but
Hmm.
what we both carry is needed.
Right.
What we both carry
Exactly.
is valuable. So
Exactly.
we just have to learn how to own that.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. And just, um, it is a process, it is a journey to kind of, realize what you are carrying.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think sometimes we make it harder than what it should be, because I think when God puts something in you, it's just something that's just in you, that thing that you may do so easily that everyone's like, oh my gosh, like you can do X, Y, Z. You're like, yeah, like can't everybody? And you're like, no, we
Yes.
can't, speak in front of, thousands of people so eloquently like you do. And you're like, oh, I've been doing that since I was 5, like,
Right.
and it's just like those things that we may overlook. And I think that also, once we kind of realize like who we are in God and he shows us, then we won't look to, like, oh, well, Brittany does this, and you're like, I wish I could do that. It's like, no, you weren't made to be Brittany. You were made to be,
Yes.
who you are. So
Yes.
yeah.
It is a process. I will co-sign on what you just said because I'm at the stage in my life where I always want to clarify that to people too.
Yeah.
Especially like when I mentor, I always tell my ladies, like, what you see now in my mid-30s is not who I was in 19 and 20. Because I never
Yeah.
want anyone to think like I just arrived at this place. No,
Mhm.
like I didn't always know what I carried either.
Mhm.
I used to be like in relationships where I didn't know my value in those relationships. And because
Mhm.
I didn't know my value, I was mishandled or mistreated.
Yeah.
I allowed those things because I didn't
Mhm.
know. I didn't know I was a vessel. I didn't know I was
Mhm.
valuable. I didn't know I was filled with purpose. And so it's a process, but as we go through those processes, like you said, Shakaya, just even knowing what sets you apart, that's a start.
Yeah.
Because the things that set you apart are for a reason.
Mhm.
I know as a child, I used to ask a lot of questions. I would ask a lot of questions to my mom. I can remember riding in the car with her. Well,
Mhm.
mom, why is this? Why is that? And one thing I'll say is like my mom never like shut me down.
Yeah.
Now she would
That's
have to
really
steward.
good.
She would have to steward my mouth now. I would
Like.
say because I used to be out of pocket sometimes as a little kid, but she never like killed that curiosity in me, and
Mhm.
she never killed like that excitement in me. Or if I
Mm.
had like high expectation of something, I remember like when I was anticipating something for Christmas, like I was anticipating it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if my mom had bought it. I didn't care. I'm like, oh, I'm getting this because this is what I
Mhm.
asked for, right?
Mhm.
Now that I'm an adult, I'm like that with God. I'm like, okay, God,
Mhm.
I believe you're going to do this in
Mhm.
your timing because I asked and I'm your daughter.
Yeah.
Those little things, they set us apart, and I think they matter.
Yeah. And I think even just like you sharing about like your childhood, I think we all need to like kind of just reflect back on our childhood. Like you said, like you asked a lot of questions and you were, you might have thought like, okay, I kind of out of pocket, some of the things. But all I heard there honestly was leader. Like anytime I see a child that's very, um boisterous or they're very, just direct, I'm like, that's a leader. And of course, you got to steward it well, and I'm
Yes.
so glad your mom didn't just like, no, just be quiet. She just allowed you to be a child and to
Yeah.
be curious. And I think that's what God wants us to be, childlike and just curious. And
Yes.
even, just knowing you, I know like one of your spiritual gifts is faith. And what you were saying, like you were expecting that gift at
Yes.
Christmas, and now as an adult, you're like, okay, God, I pray for this, and I'm expecting as my father who
Right.
owns everything, who can do anything. And so I think that's what we all need to do, just kind of reflect, like, okay, when I was a child, I was very XYZ. So how is that before the world was, influencing us? How
Yes.
were we as children?
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's like the purest form of who we were
Yeah, yeah,
is the purest form. And
yeah,
that's something that, even when it comes down to like how we look or
yeah,
things that we do, when
yeah,
we're growing up, we're experimenting as women. Y'all know
yes,
the teen years, we were experimenting with the hair, with the brows, with
yes.
everything.
Whew, what
Yeah.
brows?
Oh, what brows
Because
that
they
we
were,
done messed
I don't
up
know.
so many times. Girl, I got stories for days. But anyway,
Right.
like now I'm starting to become more refined. And that is something that God is even working with me on, is like getting
Mhm.
back to my natural self,
Yeah,
like my natural beauty. And
yeah,
hey, having accents and enhancements of who
yeah.
you are is fine.
Right.
But you don't want to move
Mhm.
so far over that you're like leaving that person
Yeah.
that God made. Like God reminded me of this months ago. Y'all know, if you follow me, you know that I'm on a
Mhm.
transformation journey with my hair.
Yeah. We love it.
Yes, thank you. And that is something I didn't understand, how hair could be such a
Mhm.
small part, but such a big part of me becoming intentional. The Lord
Yeah.
was like reminding me, what made you ever believe that the hair that you have isn't beautiful
Mm.
enough? And I'm not
Mm.
saying that's the case for everyone,
Yeah.
but that was the case for me. That was
Mhm.
something I needed to realize, like, you're beautiful with what you have. I need you to trust me and embrace
Mhm.
that. And I've been doing that for 6 months now.
Ooh.
6 months. This is the longest I've ever gone without
Yes.
any type of weave in my hair.
Yes.
Loved it. I mean, these are like everyday things that the Lord could use to bring us closer to Him and just remind us like who we really are.
Hmm. I love it. I love seeing this journey that you're on.
Thank you, girl. And appreciate you for, encouraging me and everything.
Yeah.
So I believe as we were talking about these things, part of being intentional is being self aware and open to improvement.
Yeah.
Open to
Yeah.
improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. I that was definitely something I was going to bring up, as far as like being self-aware. And I remember when I was really intentional about becoming more self-aware and just like learning myself more. That was a really interesting process because you have to be really honest with yourself and be willing to correct those things that may not be the prettiest.
Right.
And sometimes that can be hard because no one wants to think like, oh man, I can do this. We don't want to see our faults or our weaknesses,
Right.
but we have to like really dig into those and also dig into why don't we want to see our faults, our weaknesses, what's so, wrong about those things. I know
Mm-hmm.
personally for me, I had to, go through a process of being okay with not being this, like this perfect person, but realizing like, okay, there are some areas that need some improvement.
Yeah.
So let's work on that so we can be the best Shakaya we can be.
Yeah.
But just being honest with yourself, and that for me, that was like the first step of truly being self-aware because we don't handle those things like we should. It's just like we're just not really getting to the nitty-gritty of what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that you did share that. Because you're by far not the only one that has dealt with that.
Whew,
Okay.
whew.
We have to look at ourselves daily.
Yeah.
And it's not, and there's a difference between wanting to improve and then living in
Hmm.
condemnation. We're not talking
Yeah.
that, like, that is not
Yeah.
from God, feeling condemned and down on yourself and guilty about your shortcomings.
Hmm.
No, we're saying use those areas that you see in yourself that need to be improved and use that as encouragement
Right.
to better yourself.
Right.
From a state of like, I know God wants the best for me. And
Hmm.
I also know that I deserve the best for me.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter what it can be. I find myself in these seasons of my life, I'm always looking for ways to improve.
Yeah.
Even today, I was at the gym and I heard the Lord speaking to me about just, bettering my habits with
Mm.
my gym time. And he kind of spoke to me and said, working out is warfare too.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, God, I hear you.
Mm.
Because anytime that you refuse to like do the things that are helping you,
Mm.
he was like, the enemy can come in on you. Like
Mm.
anything. It's not just those, I guess, easy to see things, right? It's not always like, oh, I'm indulging in sin and I'm out
Yeah.
here living crazy. It's like, no, when you know that you're desiring to be at your best and that takes discipline,
Yep.
that's warfare. So for me, he was telling me, like, you need to devote an hour of working out every day.
Whew.
I said, okay, Lord.
Okay. We could do it. We could do it. We could do
but
it.
just but just like being able to receive that and
Right.
still be encouraged, and I just love it. And I feel like when we are at that place where we see improvement, it keeps us humble.
Right.
It keeps us humble, and we are not in a place of self-righteousness, because
Whew.
we can go there sometimes. We can
We
let our
can go there.
accolades and our achievements
Mhm.
and, okay,
Mhm.
I've gotten here and I've been blessed with
Mhm.
this, and I'm a
Mhm.
I'm a, an award-winning spot owner.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's like that's great, and we want to celebrate that,
Mhm.
but we want to get to the next place God has us as well,
Yeah.
and we want to
Yeah.
work on the other areas that may not have anything to do with
Yeah.
business that
Mhm.
need to be worked on. So I believe that's just great.
Yeah. And even with you saying like, about humility, and one thing, I don't know who, I heard it maybe a couple years ago, but basically the person, they were saying that when God reveals something, he doesn't just do it just to, like, cause shame or, to make us feel bad, like you said, not condemnation, but he brings it so he can exchange it for something better. And
Yes.
so if he brings, you, maybe it's like, maybe you struggle with like anxiety, having anxious thoughts. He wants to bring that to your attention so he can exchange it for peace, his peace
Right.
that transpasses all understanding. And
Right.
so it's just like, when we kind of have that perspective, it really changes things. So when God does bring something to us, we're not so defensive, like, oh, or whatever, but we're just like, okay, this might have hurt right here a little bit, but let's dig into it, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I can't do this on my own. Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, it's true. Like when my one of my friends said this to me earlier this year. I was sharing something with her. She said God always reveals to redeem. And I
Yeah.
remembered that. I was like, wow, okay, yes, he's revealing this part of me to redeem me and bring me back to the place that I need to
Mm-hmm.
be in him. And so
Mm-hmm.
um that to me, just like you said, keeps me from being defensive when
Mm-hmm.
I see a part of my life that needs to grow, or I see an area where I need to come up. It's like, well, you could have been blind and not had the eyes to see.
Right.
That's how I look
Right.
at it. You could have been
Right.
lost in the sauce all the way.
Right. All the way. All the way.
And I was once darkness. I will say that. Like
Mm-hmm.
reflecting back on the years, like prior to the, like I would say the past 10 years prior to that, your girl was, I was in darkness. I was lost many days, and I did not know
Mm-hmm.
how lost I was until God began to show me, and he began to redeem me. He began to pull me
Yeah.
closer to him. And when he started pulling me closer, I started looking back on some seasons like, girl, like it was only God's grace that
Mm-hmm.
brought you from that season to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is what, like you said, keeps us always like
Mm-hmm.
wanting to grow.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think as women, we all have that testimony of like looking back on where God has brought us from. Even if
Mhm.
you're just a new believer, you can still reflect back on, if it was last week, you can still
Okay.
reflect back on like how he has kept you and just, his grace and mercy and just his love for us. And
Yeah.
yeah. Oh
That's good. Ooh.
yeah.
All
Girl.
right. All right. So let's, okay. This has been good. Now
Hmm.
I'm just quickly like glancing at my notes, only because I don't want to miss like some very key things that I know I
Okay.
want to talk about.
Okay. Okay. Where are we in?
Let's move into talking about having grace as an intentional woman and
Mm-hmm.
knowing our power, but using our power effectively. Specifically, when I say that, I highlighted like using your words effectively, the characteristics of a graceful woman, knowing how to handle it, avoiding
Yeah.
idle gossip, knowing when to
Mm-hmm.
listen, all that.
Mm, yeah.
Talk about it.
Where do we begin?
Where do we begin? Okay. Being graceful, that's something that I have intentionally been working on
Mhm.
in my life. The
Yeah.
past, I would say, especially since I got married, I have been working on, and I feel like I have improved in being graceful. My husband tells me, like, I've gotten a lot better. He tells
Oh,
me, like,
true.
you got a lot better. I didn't know where I was until, I
Hmm.
have my evaluator.
Right.
Um, I can just tell you, like, being a graceful woman, it will go so far. Like,
Yeah.
it's not what we say all the time. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's how we say it. It's
Hmm.
when we say it.
Hmm.
It's who we say it to. All those things matter.
Yeah.
And I used to be the type of person like, and I don't know if it's how I was raised. Maybe like I was raised by a single mom, so I didn't have like a male in my household to kind of scale me down. It was just
Hmm.
me, my mom, and my sister.
Hmm.
So, three women, we're going to just be saying what we feel at all
Hmm.
times.
Hmm.
Say it with your chest.
Right.
But when I got married, I learned to season my words with grace because I found they were more effective.
Hmm.
They were more effective when I learned how to say things. And of course, God and the Holy Spirit have truly helped me to become more graceful. And now when I hear people say things like, "You have such grace." I give the credit to God, okay?
Yeah.
Because I used to say what I wanted to say, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't care how anyone felt.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live off of, well, I'm just keeping it real. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't sugarcoat. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna keep it real, and I'm gonna leave you how you want to feel. And I realized that's not exactly how God wants us to be as
Yeah.
intentional women. Like, He could give you the knowledge to know something, He can give you even discernment to be able to see beyond something, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still how you handle it. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely, agree with that. And I think it's just like a process of, 'cause as women, we can tear you down, but
yes,
that same mouth, God has given us, the power to build up as well. And
yes,
I think, especially in this time, it's so easy to, like you said, just be honest, be direct, and all those things. And I do believe those, it has a place,
mm-hmm.
but as a woman, we are called to be graceful and
Yes,
to be, feminine. And,
yes.
it, I can definitely relate to, just sometimes, oh, sorry, my dog.
Okay. We understand. This is real life here.
This is real life. Sorry, you guys. Yeah, so like just the grace to choose your words wisely when you know you
Mhm.
could say something totally different, having self-control with your words. That is definitely something that, if you aren't in tune with that, it can, yeah, like God can really like reel you in. And that may be something that He shows you, like, yeah, let's talk about this,
Yes,
because that person that you might have said that, direct thing to, you didn't need to say that.
yes,
And that's where, for me, like the Holy Spirit will be like, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have
yes,
done that. And it's
yes.
like, as you, continue on, it's like, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
said that. And then, you may have a chance to make amends and, ask for forgiveness to that person.
Right,
Even if they don't, even if they didn't see it that way, like, oh, that's fine. It's like, no, no, I want to apologize because I shouldn't have talked
right.
to you that way. Or, even though it may have been true or facts that I was stating, I didn't have to say it that way. I could have handled you with much care. So, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So just
absolutely.
grace.
Yes, I love that because I believe as women, we've probably all been on both sides of that.
Yeah.
I've been on a side where, as I spoke earlier, I've been on the side where I have lacked grace and
Mm-hmm.
in the name of being direct and not really having that awareness. But then I've also been on the other side where, I've been handled in a way where it hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
wow, they could have said that to me a little better, or they could have handled the situation,
Mm-hmm.
differently with me. And it might have taken me some time to repair. And so that is what has
Yeah.
even more helped me. I went from having no filter
Mm.
to then apologizing because I didn't used to be good at that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, that's your problem. As I
Mm.
grew in God, God was like, no, when you are wrong, you will apologize.
Right.
It don't
Yeah.
matter how you feel. It doesn't matter, like you said, if they receive it or they don't. You will
Mm-hmm.
do that. So I went on to being able to do that quickly. Like,
Right.
and then it moved to, I'm not even going to put myself in that situation because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that person will even, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You may not get that chance
Mm-hmm.
to repair something with a person. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what people are going through. We don't know the trust that somebody has built with us.
Mm-hmm.
So that thing that we say or do, we may not be able to come back from it. So Holy Spirit has helped me over the years, over a decade in some time,
Yeah.
for me to pause and be like, we're not even going to have that conversation right now
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know if that's going to be beneficial right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
in doing that, when I've held my tongue and I've had temperance and I've learned to
Mm-hmm.
pray and take it to God,
Mm-hmm.
He will work it out.
Yep.
The person may come to me and be like, hey, let's talk about this, or
Right.
hey, I shouldn't have said it to you that way. Hey, I think, we need to revisit this. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
so much easier. Um,
Yeah.
my relationships have just solidified from me taking that step of humility or consulting God, Holy Spirit.
Right.
You don't have to do damage control when you submit in the forefront.
Right. Right.
So, yes.
Damage control. Damage control. And I think, as we're talking about this, I don't know why I just keep thinking about, years ago. I'm not even going to say like many, many, many years, but it was, I would say maybe like a decade ago. But anyways, so I used to have really bad like road rage. Not like where I'm trying to fight people, but
Yeah.
I would blow you to smithereens. I would, just like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
just like going off. And I remember, like, just the Lord was just like, that's not cool. Like,
Mhm.
that's not cool. And so He challenged me to imagine that the person that was like cutting me off or not having their signal on was Jesus. And when I tell you that, just I'm like, okay, Jesus, you just gonna like get in front of me without having your blinkers on? Okay. And when I tell you, like, that just changed everything
Wow.
for me. And I think that also helped with, like, just self control with my words and just being, being meek when I could, say something, but just like kind of holding my tongue, like,
Yes.
even though they did something wrong, you
Yes.
don't have to blow them to smithereens with your horn.
Yes.
I'm not saying I don't use my horn.
Okay. We use the
If
horn.
I use it, it's just a little reminder, like, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
did something that was not the wisest just now. So yeah, let's
Right.
remind you. But we're not, so just like little things like that, like everyday things that people go through is not always so like overly like what we make it to be, but sometimes it may just be you not having road rage or
Okay.
not, tapping into that office gossip, like just those things. So yeah.
Yes. The little things are what are really the big things.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
character is how you are when no one's watching. As
Yes.
you stated, you could be in the car by yourself.
Yep.
Your pastor's not with you,
No.
your boss is not with you, your mom may
Mm-mm.
not be with you,
No.
but you know that, okay, I did a little too much with the horn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I love that example. That's I wasn't expecting you to say the Lord challenged you to imagine that each driver
Yes.
was Jesus.
Yes, literally. I'm like, okay, Jesus, you just gonna cut me off? Like, okay, Jesus, you just gonna I bless you. I bless you.
Yes,
Like,
that's real good. I know for me, when somebody cuts us off, I always would tell my husband, like, it could be an old person. It's an
yeah.
older person. I would just say it's an older person. He'd be like, you always say that. It's an older person. I'm like,
It's the
what
older
if it's
person.
your mom? Like, what if it was like your mom's age? And that'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of like let him,
Just
tie in,
yeah.
but yours top that. Next time I'm gonna try that on Michael would be like, it could be, what if it was Jesus?
Jesus. What if
Yes.
it was Jesus?
I
What if
love
it?
that. Let's talk about being intentional with
Mm-hmm.
filling ourselves with the right people, um,
Mm,
with the right surroundings, avoiding idle gossip, because I want to talk about what that does. Like,
yeah.
I want to talk about the effects of those things, but I also want to talk about the benefits of being around the right people.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, so when it comes to, I just want to say, when it comes to idle gossip, we're not. I want to. I want to define what I'm talking about, because
Mm-hmm.
as women, it can easily be like, well, what you mean? Like, I can't talk about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
we're talking about specifically slandering, talking about things that are not facts,
Mm-hmm.
um, talking about people with ill intent. Y'all
Yeah.
know what we talking
You
about.
know.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you know.
if it feel wrong, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about, you may have a mutual friend that may be going through something and you both are talking about a way to help them.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about someone confiding in you about something and you just spilling it out to somebody else. Like,
Mm-hmm.
girl,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got tea on such and such and her
Mm-hmm.
man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on,
Mm-hmm.
y'all know. So
Yeah.
being intentional means, like, for me in this season of my life, I avoid it. I've become unapologetic about it. I've learned how to avoid it in a way that's not
Mm-hmm.
like thinking I'm too good,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't take part in it
Yeah.
because I desire to be a woman that is trustworthy. And
Yeah.
I feel like when we are known for doing those things, it just creates a distrust that people will have for us. And furthermore, I want God to trust me with
Yeah.
certain things. So
Yeah.
if someone confides in me about something and they're telling me something that could be going wrong in their life, I'm pretty sure the Lord does not want me to
Mm-hmm.
going down the street sharing that,
Mm-hmm.
because there's several things I can do with that information. I can pray for them. I can ask God for a way to encourage them. I can come up with something to do nice for them. There's so
Yeah.
many options than
Yeah.
taking someone's, downfall or someone's area of weakness and just sharing it, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't even know like what that does. You don't know who you just don't know the effects of it.
Yeah.
And I've been
Yeah.
on, I've been on that side, unfortunately, where things that I've
Yeah.
shared in confidence has had been released without my consent.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how that made me feel. And so I'm just in a season where I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. And like you said, like, you know how that feels. And I think we all have, maybe felt that way. And so that's just something that I just really keep at the forefront of, like, I wouldn't want someone to share, such, intimate details about my life to
Mhm.
someone else. So I'm gonna treat them with the same respect of not sharing those things. Even if it's like, oh, okay, well, I could tell her this, or she's talking about her, so I can just, ease it. No, like, you do
Yeah.
not want that to, like you said, it'll like create a distrust, and like it'll taint your, your character without you even realizing it. I know, at least for me, if I'm, talking to someone who's, sharing so much about their friend or whatever, and they're just like, oh yeah, she got this, da, da, da. I am not going to tell you any of my business
Hello.
at all. I will not, like, you would not get a peep out of me.
Not a
And I'm
peep.
already private for those that know me, but like, you would definitely not know anything
Yeah.
about me
Yeah.
because I don't have time. And, that's just a boundary that
Yeah.
I've set in my life. And, like, being very intentional even about that.
Yes.
And yeah, it's important. Even though
Yeah.
it may seem like innocent, it may seem like, oh, we're just being girls. Like, no,
Yeah.
and I can't even. I'm not going to sit up here and say like I haven't been involved in any type of gossip.
Yeah.
Especially like in the workplace, things
Yes.
like that. You can get caught up in that, and when you feel that nudge of like you need to walk away, you need to go,
Mhm.
like listen to it.
Yes.
I've had those nudges where God is like, you need to walk away. And I'll like walk away. And it may not be like such a, like abrupt, like, oh, I'm leaving. You guys are saying this. It might just be like, okay, I'm gonna go back to my desk. And they'll like stop talking. Like
Yep.
they'll kind of feel like that. I'm like, oh, okay, she left. Okay.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you're not even trying to come down on them like you should not be, but it's just like like removing your presence, that says a
Yes.
lot right there.
It does. You said a mouthful there. That was all
Mhm.
helpful, all very
Yeah.
true. Like, I would say the same. I can't say that I've never been on that end of it
Mhm.
either. Especially in many situations where you said like
Yes.
it can start, it's a slippery slope that can
Yes.
start off innocent,
Yeah.
and you have to be um aware enough. You have to be
Mhm.
aware to know this is not a
Right.
road I would like to go down with this conversation.
Mhm.
Everybody has a different level that they feel comfortable with, but when you, like you said, when you feel that nudge for yourself,
Mhm.
and I will say, because I started feeling that way even more so. Like I've never really been like a gossip girl. I've never really been a gossip girl. I never really desired to be in a group, in a huddle,
Group,
talking about
yeah.
the person. Because I feel like that takes away, that's too much for me to take the
Right.
focus off me. And
Right. Right.
I'm always trying to focus on what Kamisha need to do. So
What
sometimes that
I need
stuff
to do.
can really, and then I will say the negative effect. One negative effect when you're spending time in gossip, it can bring down your own self-esteem
Yeah.
because you begin to distrust because you've been in a circle now where they're talking about Sheila. And now you're self-conscious because if they're talking about Sheila. Now you wonder what y'all saying about me when I'm not around. Are y'all talking about me to Sheila? Or like it just creates like this cycle. And maybe next time you're around that group of people, like you can't walk as confidently because you're now like, well, what should I say? As you said. But also too, like depending on what your assignment is in life or what your assignment is in the kingdom of God, that stuff can really dilute what the Lord may want to do with you, in you, and through you. And that's a whole nother thing. But being a mentor for me, I remember having consistent season where I was consistently mentoring young girls each week. And during that time of mentorship, when I was doing it very consistently, of course, I was a person that they trusted. And I still am, but it was just like each week I was hearing something different, or I was counseling this situation or dealing with this. And so, like, if I were a person that just leaked people's information, like, I don't believe that the Lord would have been pleased with that because you're supposed to steward what people give you and you're not supposed to spill it. Like, we're supposed to steward and not just spill idly information. So, yes, that's a part of knowing how to use your power and using your words to build up. Um, Sometimes you can even say a simple statement like, so what are we going to do for her? Well, they talking about something. So what are we going to do for her? Let's do something for her. It'll get quiet sometimes.
Right.
Like, what you mean? Y'all talking about how she don't got no money right now. Well, are we gonna raise some money for her? So you can kind of turn. God has given us the power to shift atmospheres. And we can't be afraid when it's time. When it's time to speak up for the good, we need to know how to do that.
Yeah, that's good. Yes. When it's time to speak up for the good.
Yes, we need to know how to do it. Let's talk about. We kind of talked about boundaries. Can we talk about stewarding our time well? Because I know that's something that we all are trying to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. Like stewarding the time well, it will look different for everyone. And stewarding your time, like time is so precious. And I think as we get older, we really realize that of how much time is so precious and what we're willing to, give and who we're willing to give our time to and what we're willing to, give our time, like things that, tasks rather. And so it's really important just to be intentional with our time. Like I said, it looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
I know for me, as I've seen over the years where I was not intentional with my time, and I've seen what that did to me. I experienced like severe burnout, and that in itself was like a wake up call for me. I remember I was, doing things that I thought were good, and things that I thought were beneficial to, my life, to other people. But I suffered from like a severe case of burnout, and that, was, like I said, was a wake up call for me about being intentional with your time because you can't get it back. You cannot get it back. And I think, once you're self-aware of like who you are and, and you're aware of who is around you, I know there are people that I may not give, an hour and a half to,
Yeah.
or a day to. But there are people that I'm like, no, I'll move some things around. And I'm intentional about that because I know who those people are in my life, and I know
Yeah.
how much they mean to me.
Yes.
And yeah, so it's just, being aware of like, okay, I can't get this back, but I'm going to use it wisely. And I think
Hmm.
we're all kind of just trying to figure out what that looks like because each season is different.
It
I
is.
mean, like you said, like the Lord challenged you to do an hour a day. So that's going to challenge you to rearrange some things in your schedule,
It is.
and you already have a lot of things going on, like, so, like it's good, when we can be intentional with our time, but also just being like, okay, I have this new thing or this, assignment maybe that God has me on,
Yes.
and just like even seeking Him for that. And I know for me,
Hmm.
I'm getting better with that of like seeking Him of how to steward my time well.
Yes.
Because we can get so caught up with like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, but He might just be like, you know what? Yes, you can do all those things, but I want you to do 30 minutes here of this
Yes.
task, 45 minutes here, and we're going to get everything done so you won't be so overwhelmed
Hmm.
and like overloaded with like, oh, I got to do all these things. But it's just like, no, like you can do all those things, but we're going to rearrange some things. So, like what to
Absolutely.
take in and what to take out.
Mm.
Yeah.
All that.
What to take in, what to take out.
When it comes to time management and like when it comes to intentionality of time, you're one of the people I always think of.
Really?
Yes. Y'all, whoever's watching, I'm just gonna tell y'all real quick. Shakaya doesn't play about her time, okay? Like, and she's a very selfless person. She's so selfless, she's giving, but she don't play about her time.
Yeah.
You can't random, what do you call it? Blind call her. You can't just like call her without her knowing, like you're about to call her. I always send a text. Well, and I'll say this while we're on here. Part of being intentional is like when you have the friendship that you value. She and I are intentional with our friendship. I'm not going to go into detail about it,
Yeah.
but we are intentional about our friendship because that's something we both desire to maintain. And
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate every step you take to contribute to that. I feel like we both contribute to that. So,
Definitely.
but you have to be intentional with your time because as women, we're nurturers, we're caregivers. We want to make sure everyone in our life is well taken care of.
Yes.
But there comes a time, like Shakai said, seasons look different. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to be okay with that. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to release control. We have to
Mm.
put certain things
Yeah.
in God's hands because if we don't, yes, we will experience the burnout. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we will be stressing and we will also self neglect ourselves in the name
Yeah.
of, I got to do everything for everybody. And
Mhm.
then you got your hair falling out and then you got
Mhm.
your weight fluctuating and then you all
Mhm.
over the place. And that's not God's
Mhm.
will.
At
That's not
all.
God's will for us as women because we do have a charge to keep, but at the same time, we have to maintain ourselves.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I've had to learn probably in the last 2 years, I shared this on one of my platforms, is I had to really hear what God was telling me. And I had to come out of obligation
Mm.
and I had to come into just being a daughter. Like,
Yeah.
it's easy to think, okay, because this is something that I'm doing. How can I say this?
Mm.
Everything I feel like I do is for God's glory, right? I
Yeah.
feel like anything I do, whether it's working with the children, I'm an early interventionist, so
Mhm.
working with those kids is for the glory of God, helping those families, serving my husband, that's for God's glory.
Mhm.
Running Live the Vision and doing what I can for my clients, that's all for God's glory. So we know that. But there are still times we have to shift some things. And so the Lord dealt with me recently because, there's an assignment God has me on specifically this year. And there's some things God would like for me to get to as a woman.
Yeah.
Two key things and I won't name them, but I had to really go to God and be like, well, something has to give.
Mm.
Something has to give. And he showed me what had to give. He showed me
Whew.
a few things that had to give. And I had to have some
Mm.
difficult conversations in order for those shifts to take place.
Mhm.
So we kind of want to go into learning how to have healthy boundaries
Yeah.
and learning how to say no
Mm.
gracefully
Mhm.
when it's time. Um, and ladies, it's okay to say no sometimes.
Yeah.
You're not a bad woman. You're not
Mm-hmm.
selfish. You're not
Mm-hmm.
unloving if you have to decline some things. Because the more that you learn to say the right no, you open up yourself to the right yes.
That's great. I love that.
You have to
I
know
love
it.
that.
The right
And
no will position you for the right yes. And
mm-hmm.
we just have to be okay with it, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't be like a people pleaser.
Yep.
You just, of course, we want to do all things that make others around us happy. We would love to
Yeah.
do all those things, but
Oh, for sure.
it can't be rooted and grounded in people pleasing. Like, what are they going to think if I tell them I'm no longer able to do this? Or,
Mm-hmm.
how are they going to feel about me if I say, hey, I can't make this event? Because with the
Mm-hmm.
commitments that I have in this season, like, I'm supporting my husband is a choice that I make. You know, it's not something
Mm-hmm.
that I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's something
Mm-hmm.
I want to do. I enjoy being around my husband, you know?
Yeah.
So,
That's a blessing. I mean, not
yes,
many people can say that.
I said, I enjoy being around you. And so there are times that, if I'm going to be traveling with him, that's something that I'm going to do. And something else has to just take a back seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's okay. Um, as we're neither of us are mothers yet, but
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
have talked about this. Like, when we become
Mm-hmm.
a mother, we're gonna
Yeah.
be a different type of mother.
Yeah. Right.
Different type of
Right.
mother. So,
Right.
and moms that are watching, I know that you all have to be intentional in your own way, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to then prioritize your child. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
married, you're prioritizing your spouse, your husband, and your child,
Mm-hmm.
first before anybody outside of your home. So that takes a whole nother level of just commitment and willingness and intentionality. Sometimes, like we said, tough conversations with
Mm-hmm.
grace, um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's necessary.
Yeah. It definitely is. And I think once we kind of come to the realization that, having those boundaries, it's not only for, those people, but it's for us to protect us. And
Yeah.
not saying like, oh, these people are bad or anything like
Right.
that, but just so we can be, our best selves. And that in itself isn't selfish, because we have to be our best selves to be the best, wife, the best, employee, the best mother, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so learning that you cannot be at every function, you will not be able to be as much as you would want to.
Yeah.
And no is a complete sentence. Like once I like really grasp that, like no is a complete sentence. And not saying that you don't, you just say no and not have to explain yourself, but sometimes you don't need to go into details like, oh, I can't make it because, da 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 da. And it's like you're oversharing that doesn't need to be shared. And it's
Yes.
okay, because then it
Yeah, you making your
I,
blood pressure go up
yes,
unnecessarily.
you're making, and then some people will use that, and it's just like you just have to be
Yeah.
direct of when you give like a firm no with grace,
Hmm.
it just sets that boundary for that person to be like, okay, I'm not gonna keep asking her why is she coming. She told
Yes.
me she can't come, and she's standing firm in that, and just like resting in like I made the right decision. I
Yes.
think a lot of us may wrestle with that, like, oh, did I make the right decision on telling them I couldn't make it? I can
Yes.
move this around. I can do this. We second guess ourselves, but when we
Yes.
truly are confident, like, as much as I would love to be at this, party or whatever, I am exhausted.
Yes.
I have to do this, I have to take care of this, and I physically cannot be there, or I mentally would not be present in this such, joyous occasion. And I want to be present for my friend or whoever it may be. I want to give them my best. But if I come, I'm just going to be like, they're going to think something's wrong with me. They're going to be like, oh,
Right.
girl, you need to stay
You got an
home.
attitude.
Yeah, well, I want to stay home, but I want, I was people pleasing. And and it's like, no, if you just said, hey, I would love to be there, but unfortunately, I can't. Thank you so much for, as a little example for people who may struggle with this. If they invite you to something, thank you so much for thinking of me. But I I have a previous engagement that I have already committed to,
Yes.
or I'm not going to be able to make it, but I really hope that you guys enjoy.
Yes.
But like I said, thank you for thinking of me. And that kind of just reassures that person, like, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
they're taking the time to be like, okay, they see that I invited them, that I
Yes.
wanted them there, but they're kind of letting me down a little easy. It's like a sandwich effect.
It
That's
is.
my whole thing. You start something positive, you put that little the negative, not negative, but what
That
you
needed.
deem, yeah, and then you just kind of end it with another positive, and it really
Yeah.
helps. But no really is a complete sentence,
Yeah.
and we can't be everything to everybody.
We can't,
It's just we can't, and that'll take a lot of pressure off of us when we realize that, because then we won't try to be everything for everybody.
because we're not meant to be.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned. I had to deprogram my mindset.
Mhm.
I watched my mom be a lot of things. And I
Mhm.
wholeheartedly, to this day, I always have these conversations with my mom. Like, I respect her so much. I'm so
Mhm.
grateful for what she had to do for us and
Mhm.
others.
Mhm.
But we are in two different spaces in our lives, right? Like, where my
Yeah.
mom was at this age is not where I am.
Mhm.
So I learned from her, but then I feel like my mom also tells me she learns from me because she's
Mhm.
like, "You're real good." Like, okay.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, but I'll come home sometime and be like, I'm going upstairs.
Mhm.
I'll see y'all.
Mhm.
I need a
Mhm.
nap.
I need my
And,
time.
yes, and I'll come back and I'm good to go. But
Yeah.
we have to advocate for ourselves because we belong to God. I'm going to bring it right back
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
We belong to Him. And if we're going to be used by Him and we're going to wake up every day with our purpose at the forefront, we have to keep
Mhm.
that in mind for everything. And in doing so, it gets, I think the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yes.
Like you said, when it comes to setting boundaries, if you do the hard thing a couple times, it'll set
Mhm.
a precedent for others around you. And
Mhm.
they will just they'll begin to understand how you operate. But I think the
Mhm.
situation is with a lot of us women is we never have a healthy boundary in certain areas. So then we constantly are frustrated, resentful, or we like,
Mhm.
sometimes, and this is no shade to anybody, if this might be you, but this is just to help you. Like, if you're always saying,
Mhm.
no one appreciates me, I do everything,
Yeah.
no one values me. Well,
Mhm.
sis, step back.
Mhm. Mhm.
Why is that the case in every situation?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just
Yeah.
have to learn how to say, I would love to, but I can't. If you do
Mhm.
it just one time, it will feel so good. And then you will see that, oh, that's not as bad as I thought.
Mhm.
Now sometimes people will get mad at you, but they will
Yeah.
be fine.
They will be
And
fine.
you will
They
be
will be
fine.
fine. Yeah. But it really does set the, like you said, the precedence for, going forward. Um,
Mhm.
it really does, because it wasn't always, and I still struggle with, like, oh, what I'm saying, but I have to realize, like, you cannot be everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's okay, because that's one thing about people pleasing. It will try to raise this little head, like, in a
Yeah.
lot of areas if you're not
It will.
careful. But you just have to be aware, like, okay, no, as much as I would love to, but I'm gonna have to decline. And
Yeah.
it's okay. And just like setting those boundaries, and yeah, just really, once you do it, like you said, like a couple times, like it
Mhm.
really does become, yeah, it becomes easier. It
Yeah.
really, really does. And people will act accordingly. I'll just
They
say that.
will. And guys, if you're watching this and you're an overcoming people pleaser or you're trying to get out of that, because I meet a lot of people that they'll ask me like, how are you so confident in what you're able to
Mhm.
do? And I was at work earlier this week and I was leaving a voicemail at one of my children's house regarding something for their child. And I left a voicemail and the mom was like, oh my gosh, you're so confident on voicemails. Like, I struggle to
Mm,
leave messages. And I was like,
mm,
really? She's
mm.
just like, yeah, I always think of the right things to say. I'm like, you just got to say what you want to say.
Yeah.
And that's it, And so if you're
Mhm.
struggling with that, ask the Holy Spirit to help you.
Yeah.
This is another thing. Like, it doesn't have to be the big things that we're asking
Mhm.
for help for. It could be something as small as like, help me to be able to stand up for myself in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, help me to be able to articulate what I need
Mhm.
without me feeling guilty or without me
Mhm.
backing down. There are times
Mhm.
that we can't back down.
Yeah.
If we continue to back down, we're not going to
Yeah.
grow. We're not going to grow in that area.
Mhm.
So I believe that the Holy Spirit can really help you there.
Like, yeah, I definitely agree, and I can attest to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
girl. Okay, so we're kind of, we are at the kind of toward the end of it. So
Okay.
let's just talk about how the intentional woman sees possibilities more than problems. And what we're kind of saying is,
Mm.
like, refusing to worry, or at least limits complaints. And I do want
Mhm.
to emphasize there's a difference between just complaining and confiding in others when you need to. Uh,
Yeah.
so what can you speak to that? I know for me, I've learned how to kind of train my mouth.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
process. But when I learned that life and death are in the power of the tongue,
Mhm.
I've learned to. I'm not saying I don't have a hard days where I just come home and I might vent, to my husband
Mhm.
about my
Yeah.
work day, like, because I do,
Yeah. Yeah.
I do. But I make sure that it doesn't turn, like, a day of venting doesn't turn into a daily thing.
Yeah.
Just, this is going wrong, this is happening, and we it's just something I've learned. So what can you speak to that for yourself?
Yeah. Like you said, it is a process, and I think just like staying grounded in like the bigger picture. Like a bad day is just like a small portion of, what the bigger picture is.
Mhm.
And I believe both of us were visionaries, so
Yes. Yeah.
so we definitely can see the bigger picture, and is realizing like, okay, this little hiccup or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
um, it even though it's trying to like just put a damper on like everything I got going on, you gotta have to have a paradigm shift, like a mindset shift.
Hmm.
And you have to be really intentional about that because it can be so easy to be like, oh, this is like the worst. Da, 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 da. Let me call this person and complain to them because they're gonna make me feel better.
Right.
And I deserve to, um, be able to express this and all these
Hmm.
things. And sometimes that's not, beneficial.
Yeah.
As much as we, want to get things off our chest, and like you said, you're gonna have those days, but you can't make it a daily thing
Right.
because it's what is it benefiting you?
Right.
Not saying you can have a moment, not saying you can't have a day, but what is it benefiting you to have those constant woe is me?
Right.
And like I said, we all experience things differently, we all process things differently.
Yes.
And that just kind of goes back to what we've been saying this entire time about being self-aware, about having a prayer life, and just being intentional about going to God first,
Yes.
even though it may be so easy to call up, your sis, your friend that you really confide in. And
Yes.
yes, you can still call them, but God wants to be our first, run to. And I know even
Yeah.
this season, He's really teaching me about that. And not even saying that I will always run to those people that are in my life, but just, okay, seeing Him as the first reaction, not seeing like, not wallowing in those thoughts or whatever they may be, or, thinking like, oh, I need to talk to such and such because she can, really help me. But yeah, I can maybe talk to her, but let me go to God first
Yeah.
and see what He says about it because I could talk to Him and He completely just changed my perspective on it. And I don't even need to talk to,
Okay.
whoever.
Yes.
Not saying they're not great, I love them, but like
Yes.
whoever it may be, but He wants to be that first like that first response. We go to Him first. And
Yes.
so yeah, that's what I can. Yeah, I hope I yeah
No,
answered
you
everything.
did. You
Yeah.
you always give.
Thank
I
you.
love it because I'm all, when you're giving like your example, I'm hearing and I'm learning too. Because even though I'm
Hmm.
your friend, like, I love
Yeah.
that I'm learning like how you process these
Likewise.
areas.
Likewise.
And I totally agree with letting God be that first person that we go to. I know for me, I can distinctly remember a time when I was like overwhelmed with something that, had hurt me. And I just came to the place, to my private place, and I just
Mm-hmm.
like cried to God. And
Yes.
it felt
Yes.
so good. Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to have the right words to say. I didn't have to explain what took place. I know
Mm-hmm.
that the Lord
Mm-hmm.
knew what happened. I just
Mm-hmm.
cried. I cried.
Yeah.
And as I was crying out to the Lord, I felt comforted. But then something shifted after, I don't know how long I was down there, but
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
shifted, and God, the Spirit of God began to remind me, like, I'm here. I hear you. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now I
Mm-hmm.
need you to lay that at my feet.
Mm.
I need to empower you to get back up. You
Yeah.
got work to do.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, and I could just feel when the shift, because I'm going to tell you, I had my music go, I had my worship music, and I was just,
Just going in.
like I was just pouring it out. And then I felt the shift. And when the
Mm.
song, whatever song ended, I felt the
Mm.
shift, and I felt like the power of God. And I felt the strength of God, and I was able to
Yes.
get up, and I was literally, it's just something that like was so transformational in that hour or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But the Lord was like, get up, you got work to do, and you can do it,
Yes. Yes.
and you will do it, and
Yes.
you can make it.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I probably believe I did share the situation with the person, but it was a whole different perspective I had by that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was not a victimization moment of like,
Yeah.
you will not believe what happened to me. It was like, this
Mm-hmm.
situation took place, but I'm okay.
But right.
Yeah.
Right. I
So
think that's what we all, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
I think that's what we all kind of want, just to be heard and seen. And so that's why
Hmm.
we may go to, that friend or that confidant, because we want to be heard. We want to be, uh, seen. We want to be considered.
Yes.
And God is like, I see you. Like He told
Yes.
you, I see you. Like, I hear you. Just give it to me. Like, I can handle this, and I'm going to help you through it. And you will make it. I mean, that reassurance that we, may be seeking, or that guidance that we may be seeking from someone else, He's like, I trust me, I got you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really want to emphasize that to our viewers, because man, if I really knew how God really cared for me earlier on in life, I would have been going to Him
Mm-hmm.
so much sooner, so much
Yeah.
more often. Like, God really does love us. He really does desire the best for us. He sees us.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are broken, when we are feeling overwhelmed, when we are alone, He wants us to come, and He will give
Yeah.
us rest. And I know for me, like, one of my love languages is words of affirmation. So,
Mine too.
and because of that, I find myself always showing love through like my words with
Mm-hmm.
others. Like, I'm always wanting to let my friends know how much they mean, or I'll give like
Mm-hmm.
encouragement. Even in my job, like
Mm-hmm.
with my parents I work with, they're always like, I feel so strong when like you talk to me
Mm-hmm.
about my child. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
just the way
Yes.
I show love.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time when I felt like I didn't really get that back a lot. You know,
Mm,
I was looking for it in the wrong place. And it's
mm,
not to say that my friends weren't doing it. It's not to
mhm.
say that I didn't have people around me, but the level that I needed, it needed to come from God.
Yeah,
It needed to
yeah.
be from Him. And so God just constantly speaks to me and lets me know, like, daughter, yes, you good.
Mhm,
Even when it's the correction, I still take that as like, okay, God, you love
mhm,
me enough to show me.
mm,
I appreciate
mhm.
you. Cause my friendship style too, and my relationship style is like, I know you love me by you telling me the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the whole flatter me,
Mhm,
be
mhm.
fake. Oh,
Yeah.
girl. Like, no,
She's
tell me the truth.
fine. Right, right.
And so God gives us that. He gives us what we need as individuals. So yeah, just go to Him for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. But this was really good.
It
We
was.
absolutely can't talk about every single thing when it comes
Yeah.
to being intentional, but I do feel like tonight's conversation was much, much needed. We did have a question that was asked that I just want us, or
Oh
maybe if
yeah.
you don't mind
Yeah.
addressing it. A question was asked is like, what is the number one thing that you feel keeps women from being intentional? Let me quickly read it just to make sure I have that question right.
Okay.
Because I told everybody that we were going to answer. So yeah, what is the number one thing that keeps women from being intentional in life? The number one thing.
Woo.
I'll let you answer that.
Thank you. I think definitely trying to be everything for everyone
Mm,
and neglecting themselves. Not saying, you know, you have to be selfish, not saying you have to be just so like self-centered,
mhm.
but I think, you know, once we kind of come to the realization that we cannot be everything to everyone, we will be able to prioritize our time, our, you know, what we say and just how we say in our boundaries.
Yeah.
Just kind of as you were reading that question, I just kind of came to mind of, you know, just realizing that we cannot be everything to everyone, especially as women. It can be so easy to have so many hats and
Hmm.
let those things um, ultimately become our identity, you know. But as the foundation, our identity is being daughters of God.
Yes.
And once we really settle and like rest in that and delight in that, because delight is to, you know, be pampered, to be,
Mm,
you know, luxury. You know, people they don't realize that, but you know,
yes.
delight in the Lord, you know, and He wants to do that, and it'll kind of filter into everything else that we do. Yeah,
Yes. Thank you for answering that question. I agree.
yeah.
I agree. Trying to be everything to everyone. We got to delight. Ooh, I love it. Like,
Mhm.
delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires
Sorry, some of you. Mhm. Mhm.
because that's what He desires to do. Well, thank you so much, Shakaya. Once
Oh,
again, I value your time.
oh.
I really
Thank you
value
for
your
having.
time. I'm not just saying that, you know, I do, because I know what you
Yes.
have going on. So I appreciate you so much for joining.
No
Um,
problem. My honor, my pleasure, and my Chick-fil-A
yes,
voice.
my pleasure. Tell them how they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's sincerely Shakaya, SincerelyShakiya. Also on TikTok and YouTube. If you want to follow the spa Self-Lux Code, that's SELFLUXECO. So you can follow us on there as well.
Yes, y'all hear that. So she gave y'all a few ways to connect with her.
Yes.
So please do so. And I will let you all know that The Intentional Woman is now out at livethevisionscode.com. So you can purchase that book there if you want to get a little bit more in depth to the topics that we talked about tonight. I named it a timeless guide because I do truly believe that it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter what season that you're in when you read that, it's going to help you. It's not just for the wife, it's
Amen.
not just for the mom, it's not just for
Amen.
the business owner. It is for the everyday woman that is striving
Amen.
to live intentionally. So go ahead and grab that. And I just want to say thank you once again. And we will see you guys next time
Yes.
if there be another
Yes.
video. Also,
Yes.
if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment, feel free to give any thoughts that you have. If this helped you in any way, we would love to
Yeah.
see it. We'll read it, just
Yeah.
so we know. But I know that in my heart that it is beneficial because it helped me.
Yes. Likewise. Likewise.
But yeah, we love to see
Likewise.
that feedback. So thank y'all so much. And
Yes.
thank you, Shakaya.
Thank you, Kamisha, for having me on. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure.
All right. Thanks.
All
Y'all have
right.
a great night.
All right. Bye, you guys. Have a good one. Thank you for joining.
Bye.